Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, as promised earlier today, we have in the studio our guest who will be talking to us about the efforts to further relations and develop more ties and interaction between other African countries, especially as Egypt now heads and takes the leadership of the African Union. I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon in the studio by my guest, Dr. المجيد Sallama, member of the Arab African Council. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Doctor, first and foremost, although Egypt does enjoy deeply rooted ties with African countries, those ties had their ups and downs in recent modern history. But now, with Egypt heading the African Union, a new leadership initiative to develop ties with all African countries. How do you see this?
Yes, at first, as usual, we have to summarize the situation. We started in the 60s, late 50s and early 60s to try to build a good relation with the African community in general. And we have some deep introduction to that part of the world. And then it was slowed down a little bit until full cut mid-90s, when there were some against the president during that time, during his visit to Ethiopia. And then in the last few years, we restarted with a very big push in that direction, with the new government, new regime, new ideas, which is positive, very positive. And I visited lately so many countries in Africa, and they feel it to the level that it was asked very openly. You left us for years. Why you are coming back? What happened? So everybody in Africa feel it. But on the other hand, I have to put some things. Do we need Africa? Does Egypt need Africa or not? I might be a little bit pro-Africa. I can very simply say that we have no choice. If we want really to go up as an economy, we have to count on Africa. Africa is the only, O-N-L-Y, only market for us to grow. We do not have any other alternative possibility. Simply, all the countries, which we say developed countries, are counting their economy links. So they estimate that our limit should be at that level, hardly to exceed it. But the only economy which can receive our products and our work is the African communities. Even some countries like the Arab countries. If we go to the North African Arab countries, it's controlled by the French organizations and the French economy. So our introduction there is very calculated and it has to be done on a sharp edge. If we go to the other Eastern countries, Arab Eastern countries like the Gulf area, where we have excellent political relations with them now, Iraq, Syria when it is starting, Saudi Arabia. These countries at first, the majority of them are very close to the eastern part of Asia. So the competition in prices, in quality and services, it's in their favor, not in our favor. So we have a difficulty on that. And on the other hand, these countries, they have some good amount of money. So when they are evaluating, they evaluating according to the availability of the market resources they have and only supplying resources they can get. But when it comes to Africa, definitely Africa, from African countries, there are 3 countries who can play that role. South Africa, Morocco, and Egypt. These 3 countries are the qualified countries to go into Africa as African countries.
Yes.
And Morocco is controlled 100% by the French system, so their movement is limited according to the structure and to the directions received from their background, the French organizations. South Africa is, although it is existing very powerfully in Africa, but I think they are limited due to some political background.
Turmoil, yes.
Yeah. The only country which can be qualified and which can make a real gain into the market is Egypt. However, there are a lot of constraints.
Challenges. Yes. Doctor, we will get to those challenges. But first, tell me, in your opinion, what are some of the major steps that have been taken by Egypt to enhance its ties with developing countries in the African continent, especially since it assumed the leadership of the African Union? Or even before, actually, since the administration.
Very hard question.
Yes.
Would you like me to say openly
Yes.
or politically?
Both.
Both, okay. Right. Openly. This is true. We have a political background. I mean, for the first time in our history, since the 70s, the leadership in this country moved toward really to have a good ties with the African countries. This is very positive. Okay? After that, nothing. We did not progress at all because we are speaking, and no action. Can you give me one single support of the financial tools which is needed there? When I go to work there, I need some financial support, not payment, because but tooling. If we are speaking about letter of guarantee with any bid or any security, as a security for any offer presented by Egyptian companies into these countries, Central Bank of Egypt is saying rules, 100% down payment here. So if I'm bidding for a project and I need a bid security of 1 million, I have to put 1 million in the bank here. So financial tools, no support. Number 2, did we do logistic support? No. The transportation of agri-goods from Egypt to Africa or Africa to Egypt is much more expensive than transportation from China and Southeast country to Egypt. Although this other side is double the distance. Why? Because there are no real interest in
But Doctor, hasn't there been now steps to establish, there's a recent project to establish ports linking the whole part of Eastern Africa together till Southern Africa. There have been steps in this direction.
Right.
Cape to Cairo, the railway system that has been spoken about for years, there's now more solid steps to take in this direction, under the leadership
that's
of Egypt.
Well, that's again saying the same thing, the same point as a leadership, as official announcement. We are going on that. But up to now, no
Still
real
steps to be
steps
taken.
is giving a real output.
Even
Okay,
though
the road you are speaking about, the connection you are speaking about, they started to do it. But this needs a long time. And because we have to admit that during that long road, there are a lot of unsecured areas, plus. So, but let's speak very simple things that up to very recent timing, many countries of Egypt was not covered by air transport, like Egypt Air did not serve many countries. Okay, financially, oh yes, so when you speak to them, they do not have the enough number of passengers, they do not have the enough economy, feasibilities.
So infrastructure is a major challenge.
This is, of course.
Doctor,
so it's financial and then infrastructure.
But doctor, let's talk about the benefits when we solve these two challenges. Egypt developing ties with African countries, helping African countries in the industrialization. Usually African countries are looked at as raw material sources. This is where you get your raw materials, cheap prices, and then countries take the raw materials, produce industrialization there, then sell them back to the African countries for triple or quadruple the prices. Now there is a shift.
Times.
Yes, 10 times, as you said. There's a shift to change this mentality, to open new markets, investment opportunities for African countries, no longer seeing African countries as a source of raw material, but as a place to invest, to industrialize their, increase their capacities in the market. How important would this be? Especially this is a project that is trying to be undertaken.
Right, this is a very important point. Now, the whole world is looking for Africa as a virgin continent where they have many resources, and they are selling this raw materials to all over the world. If we are going into this same direction, we are not going to succeed because there are other countries who had been doing that for years and years, and they have a much more strong relations, a much more steps forward before us. But we have to come out with new ideas. The new ideas is being some sort of, as you are saying, localization of services, even one further step. So instead of exporting from Africa to other countries raw material, let us make it semi-raw material. So we are engaging people so they will support us. We are reselling and making profit. We are getting some know-how from our people here. So this is a good, very good idea. This is the way. This has nothing. Of course, we have to admit also that we cannot go really to a further step because so many of the African countries do not have the necessary things and situation to go from raw material to final product. So it has to be on a step by step.
Yes, indeed.
And this will give a good output.
Indeed. I'm afraid we've run out of time very quickly
this
afternoon. Dr. Abdelmajid Salama, member of the Arab African Council. I'd like to thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us this afternoon and for all your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up today's edition of Cairo Local Time. You're in the company of myself, Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.